I fell for my best friend's little brother. Wait, what the hell are you doing here? I blurted, my voice sharper than I intended, as I stared at the figure on my doorstep. Luke, my best friend's younger brother, stood there, his duffel bag slung over one shoulder, and a casual smirk playing on his lips. Except, this wasn't the scrawny kid I remembered. No, he filled out, broad shoulders, an athletic build, and a confident stance made him seem every bit the college freshman ready to take on the world, and apparently my apartment. He tilted his head, clearly amused by my reaction. Didn't Rowan tell you? I'm moving in. What? My mind reeled, my grip tightened on the doorframe. No, he didn't mention a thing. Luke shrugged, stepping closer. Classic Rowan. Anyway, I'm here now. Don't look so freaked out. We'll have fun. He grinned the kind of grin that probably got him out of trouble more often than not. Before I could protest, he brushed past me and walked into the apartment, like he owned the place. I turned to watch him stride in, effortlessly dropping his bags onto the couch. Frustration and dread churned in my stomach. Luke was a cocky, annoying jerk who somehow perfected the art of getting under my skin. And that was before he transformed into this handsome young man. And the fact I'd had once a silly crush on him, well, that was just icing on the disaster cake. A few hours later, so what exactly are you doing here? I asked, dropping onto the couch beside him, my arms crossed in annoyance. What do you think? I'm here for college, of course, he replied with a casual shrug, as if his sudden appearance in my life was the most normal thing in the world. I mean, why here? In my apartment, I clarified, my irritation starting to seep through. He chuckled, leaning back comfortably. Didn't know it was your apartment. I thought you and Rowan rented this place together. Well, I stammered, my words tangling embarrassingly. He grinned, his eyes sparkling with amusement. It's cute when you get all flustered, you know. I rolled my eyes, determined to ignore the heat creeping up my neck. I hope you're not planning on getting into any kind of trouble while you're here. Luke smirked, leaning closer just enough to make me uncomfortable. Only the best kind, he winked. And I couldn't tell if he was joking or making a promise. With a resigned sigh, I pushed off the couch and walked out of the room. The upcoming days with him were going to be nothing short of a nightmare. Assuming I survived with my sanity intact. 2 days later, I was in the kitchen, focused on dinner when Luke strolled in like he owned the place. So, what's on the menu? Or, should I ask what you're burning today? He teased, flashing that grin. I'm making dinner, thank you very much. I shot back, rolling my eyes. Not that you'd know anything about that. Hey, that's not true. I'm an amazing cook, he said, leaning against the counter with a smirk. Yeah, sure, I replied sarcastically. He stepped closer, his eyes glinting. I can make food so good, you'd never want me to leave. His voice was smooth, and I couldn't ignore the way his perfect blue eyes caught my attention. I froze for a second, then snapped myself out of it. Why do you always mess with me? I muttered. Because it's fun, he said with a grin. Well, if you're done having fun, come help me, I grumbled. Fine. Can't have you whining to my brother about how I left you to suffer alone, he replied, stepping beside me. I expected him to fumble, but as I watched him move around the kitchen with surprising ease, I had to admit, though I'd never tell him, that he might be actually a good cook. But as we worked side by side, bantering and laughing, more than I'd care to admit, I began to realize maybe, just maybe, Luke wasn't as annoying as I'd always thought. A few days later, I was sitting alone on the college lawn, trying to focus on my book, when a familiar voice broke my peace. Andrew, fancy seeing you here, Luke teased. It's hardly a surprise when we're stuck at the same college, I muttered, not bothering to look up. Hey, don't be like that, he said, plodding down beside me. I sighed, closing my book with more force than necessary. Don't you have anyone else to bother? I already have to deal with you at home. Well, you're way more interesting than anyone else, he smirked. What do you want, Luke? Can't you leave me alone for 5 minutes, I grumbled, shooting him a glare. Don't be grumpy. What's the book? He asked, grabbing it before I could stop him. Hey! I protested, but he was already flipping through it. Didn't peg you for a sci-fi fan, he said, surprised. And what exactly did you peg me for? I shot back. He grinned. The serious, brooding type who only reads old classics. Well, someone has to be serious around you, I retorted. But for the record, I'm actually a fan. Luke raised an eyebrow. Oh, really? Is that why you're sitting alone? I blushed, flustered. I have plenty of friends. He laughed. Plenty, huh? I'd love to meet them. But if you ever get lonely, I'm always here for you. My heart skipped a beat, and before I could respond, he grinned and walked off, leaving me speechless and flustered. 1 week later, over the past week, Luke's annoying presence has changed, but I'd grown used to it. He was almost tolerable now. Dare I say, I even enjoyed having him around. I was curled up on the couch, lamenting a rough day at college, when Luke walked in. What's with the gloomy face, he asked. Nothing, I muttered, not looking up. He plotted down beside me, our knees brushing. Doesn't look like nothing, he said, his tone light, but his eyes concerned. I rolled my eyes. Don't you have anything better to do? No, not when you're here looking like someone stole your favorite snack. I sighed. It's just a long day. College can be stressful. Luke softened. I get it. Starting college was rough for me too. But aren't you the charmer? I thought everything came easy for you, I smirked. Even the popular guys have bad days, he chuckled. He paused, his voice quieter. Seriously though, you're not the smartest guy I know. If anyone can figure this out, it's you. I was surprised by the compliment. Thanks, I guess. He smiled genuinely. Anytime. I'm here for you. A few days later, it was a quiet afternoon, and I had retreated to the kitchen to make coffee, hoping for a moment of peace. Luke, of course, had other plans. As I poured the coffee into my mug, he strolled in, leaning casually against the counter. Making one for me too? He asked, his voice teasing. Nope, I replied flatly, stirring my coffee without looking at him. Cold, Andrew, so cold. He let out a mocking sigh and leaned closer, peering into my mug. Come on. Just a little sip. I turned to glare at him, holding my mug protectively. Get your own. He shrugged, his grin widened. Fine, but that serious look suits you. I bet you look even better if you smiled more. Ugh, don't you have an off button or something? I replied, rolling my eyes. He stepped closer, close enough that I could feel his warmth. You know, Andrew, he said, softly, you're kind of fun to mess with. That little glare you give me. Adorable. I turned to face him, attempting to glare again, but the grin on his face was impossible to ignore. You're insufferable. You know, he said, a small smile playing at the corner of his lips. I might not always show it, but I do care. You don't always have to deal with everything alone. I looked at him, unsure whether to feel comforted or frustrated, but I couldn't deny the sincerity in his eyes. I'm not asking for anything, I muttered, trying to pull away from the moment. He took a step back, but didn't break eye contact. You don't have to. Just don't shut me out completely, okay? I nodded silently, and with that, he quietly turned and left the kitchen. His words hung in the air, leaving me unsure if he really was being sincere. 1 week later, I was sprawled across the couch. My laptop bounced on my knees as I typed furiously, trying to finish an assignment, while Luke lounged beside me without a care in the world. You're so tense, Luke teased. Relax for a second, Andrew. Some of us actually have work to do, I replied without looking up. Luke smirked and nudged my shoulder with his. Come on, live a little. What's so important anyway? Secret fan fiction? I shoved him playfully. It's an essay, you idiot. Luke laughed. You know, you're cute when you're annoyed. Don't you have something better to do than bother me? I muttered. But my cheeks were turning pink. Luke grinned. Luke's grin slowly faded, and he stepped closer, his gaze softening as he looked at me. No, actually, I don't. Not when you're around. Luke? Not sure what to make of the sudden change in his demeanor. I know I mess with you a lot, he began, his voice quieter now, more sincere. But it's only because you're always so closed off. I guess I try to lighten the mood, to make you smile. I blinked, feeling a lump form in my throat. Why do you care so much? Luke came closer now. There's no more teasing now. Just pure, unfiltered honesty. Because I care about you, Andrew. More than I let on. I could feel my heart hammering in my chest. His icy blue eyes locked onto mine. And for a moment, the world seemed to shrink to just the two of us. I don't know what to say, I muttered, my gaze dropping to the floor. You don't have to say anything. I just needed to say it. Luke murmured, his gaze dropping to my lips. I could feel my cheeks burning, the heat spreading as the space between us disappeared. Then, Luke's lips met mine. A kiss that was soft and tender, yet undeniably electric, sending a shiver down my spine. When we pulled back, I blinked up at Luke. My face flushed. Luke smirked, resting his forehead against mine. For the record, I'm going to bother you even more now. Then he added softly, but I'm here, whenever you need me. I nodded slowly, not sure what to make of everything yet, but I feel like maybe it was okay to let him in. 3 days later, I've been avoiding Luke since that kiss. It wasn't easy, but I managed by coming home late. My feelings for him were growing, but I couldn't make sense of them. I'd always thought my past crush was just admiration, nothing more. I'd never been attracted to guys, only girls. I convinced myself the kiss was a slip, but now I could feel something shifting, and it scared me more than I'm willing to admit. I sighed as I entered the house, tired from a long day. So you finally honor me with your presence. Luke's voice startled me. I hadn't noticed him leaning against the wall. I'm tired, Luke. Let me go, I said, trying to brush past him, but he blocked my way, arms stretched out. We need to talk. Now, I sighed. Fine. Let's talk. Why have you been avoiding me? He asked, his voice sincere. I don't know. I stammered, avoiding his gaze. Bullshit! You know exactly what you're doing, he snapped. Luke, I'm just dealing with some stuff. I deflected. Stuff like that kiss? He demanded. If you hated it so much, just say so. It's not like that, I said defensively, trying to push past him, but he caught my wrist, pulling me closer. You're hurting my feelings, Andrew. Please, just talk to me. Seeing Luke so vulnerable made my chest tighten. I didn't want to hurt him, but I wasn't ready to face my confusion. I'm sorry, Luke, I muttered, slipping away and walking into my room. As I reached the door, I hesitated, and glancing back, he was still standing there. His pain cut him deeper than words. 2 weeks later, I hadn't really talked to Luke since that night. Though we exchanged a few words, it felt like we were walking on eggshells around each other. Before Luke had moved in with me, I'd been drowning in grief over my breakup with my girlfriend. I always brushed off my feelings for him in the past, telling myself it was just a phase, something that didn't really mean anything. Even now, I wasn't sure I'd fully moved past my breakup, or if I'd come to terms with the possibility that I could have feelings for a guy. I sat with my friend in the cafeteria, lost in my thoughts. Earth to Andrew! Justin waved his hand in front of my face. Before I could respond, Ava squealed. Look at that handsome hunk. He's coming over to us. I turned and froze when I saw Luke walking towards us. You know him? I asked, trying to keep my tone neutral. Of course. He's the popular freshman, known for his looks and charm. Olivia explained. Ava sighed. I wish I could get his number. He's younger than you, I blurted out, feeling an unfamiliar anger surge through me. My friends looked at me in surprise. Relax, bro, Justin said. Sorry, I mumbled, realizing I reacted more strongly than I meant to. Luke arrived at our table, and I tensed. He stood behind me, smirking. Hey, Andrew, he greeted. Then looking at my friends, he added, Mind if I join you guys? Not at all. Olivia and Ava giggled. Luke sat next to me, and my heart raced. Why was this still affecting me? So, you have friends, Andrew? He teased, his voice light. I turned away, avoiding his gaze. Wait, do you two know each other? Ava said. We're flatmates, Luke said, throwing his arm around my shoulder. How could you not tell us? Ava pouted. He would have if he stopped brooding about his ex, Justin teased. I flushed and glanced at Luke. His playful expression was gone, replaced by a coldness I hadn't seen before. Ex, Luke asked, his smile now stiff. Olivia, oblivious to the tension, said, Andrew used to date a girl, and they were perfect together. I could feel Luke's gaze on me, sharper than before. What happened? He asked, his tone more serious. I hesitated, then answered flatly, It doesn't matter. We're not together anymore. None of us know, except them, Olivia added, shrugging. Luke nodded slowly, processing my words. For a moment, the air was thick with tension, but I tried to move past it. I introduced my friends to him, hoping it would ease the awkwardness. We managed to chat for a while, but I couldn't shake the feeling that something had shifted between Luke and me. Something I wasn't ready to face. That night I came home late, hoping to avoid Luke after the conversation about my ex. But there he was, sitting on the couch waiting for me. I thought about heading to my room to avoid him, but the pained look on his face made me stop, sighing. I sat next to him. What happened? You tell me, he said, frustration in his voice. You've been avoiding me and hiding things. I'm not. I lied, hoping it sounded convincing. Now you're lying too, he scoffed. Did that kiss mean nothing to you? I laughed bitterly, shaking my head. More than you know. Then why? He asked, hurt in his eyes. Because I'm scared, I admitted, the words tumbling out. My feelings for you are growing, but I'm terrified to mess this up. I took a deep breath. My last relationship, it started strong, but we drifted apart. By the end, it felt forced. She initiated the breakup, but I couldn't shake the guilt, like it was my fault for not being sincere enough. That fear, it's still there. Luke's gaze softened. Andrew, I didn't know. I'm sorry you went through that. I nodded, meeting his eyes. It's why I've been holding back. Why I'm afraid to let anyone in again. He leaned in closer, his voice steady, but full of warmth. I get it, Andrew. That kiss, and my feelings for you, they're not casual. I felt this way for a long time. His confession took my breath away. Part of me wanted to push him away again, but the other part, stronger, didn't want to lose him. Luke, I began, my voice shaky. I don't know if I can do this. I'm still confused, but I need to be honest with you. I had a small crush on you in the past too, but right now, I'm just scared of ruining things. Luke's eyes widened briefly before a soft smile broke through. He reached for my hand. Andrew, you don't know how much it means to hear that. We don't have to rush this. Take your time. We'll figure it out together. He eased some of my doubt. Thank you, Luke, for being patient. He grinned, his playful side slipping back. You're worth the wait. And besides, teasing you is way too fun to give up. We both laughed, the tension finally breaking. Then, his voice dropped to a whisper. Can I kiss you again, Andrew? I nodded, unable to speak. When his lips met mine, it wasn't rushed or uncertain. It was tender and unhurried, filling the cracks left by my fear. In that moment, I didn't have all the answers, but one thing was clear. I didn't want to let this go. 3 weeks later, it took me time, but I eventually understood my feelings. I realized I was bisexual and that I'd long moved on from my ex-girlfriend. My fears of being with someone again slowly faded too. Most importantly, I admitted to myself that I liked Luke far more than I thought. Through it all, Luke was my anchor, patient and supportive. As we built our relationship one step at a time, life with him was anything but dull. That evening, we sat on the couch, a sci-fi movie playing. Popcorn between us. Luke, as usual, was restless. Can't we do something more interesting? He groaned, shifting beside me. Don't be a spoil sport. You picked the movie, I replied, eyes glued to the screen. Yeah, but I'm bored now, he complained. I sighed. What do you want me to do? Luke's lips curled into a mischievous grin. Maybe we could kiss again. Or something more? Rolling my eyes, I shoved him lightly. Is your mind always in the gutter? Luke put on an exaggerated pout. How could you say that? I'm such an innocent person. Then he suddenly pushed me down onto the couch, pinning my arms by my side. His grin turned wicked as he leaned closer. You sure you don't want to kiss? He murmured, his voice dropping to a teasy, silky tone. My gaze drifted to his lips, and before I knew it, I was reaching up, pressing a soft kiss to them. I do, I whispered. The kiss started soft and hesitant, but quickly deepened, igniting sparks that left no room for hesitation. My hands tangled in his soft platinum hair. As his touch set my pulse racing, the movie faded into the background, and the playful evening turned into a night of passion. In Luke's arms, I felt clarity I hadn't known before, a sense of being in sync with him, with myself, and with the future we are building together. A few days later, Luke and I settled into a comfortable rhythm in the past days, our days filled with laughter and love. That afternoon, I was in the kitchen attempting to make lunch. Need help, Chef Andrew? Luke's teasing voice came from behind me. Nope, I've got this, I replied stubbornly. Before I could protest, he took over the pan. See? Easy, he said with a grin. Fine, you win, I grumbled, but don't think this makes you the kitchen boss. Oh, I'm the boss of more than just the kitchen, he replied with a dramatic wink. I rolled my eyes laughing. You're insufferable. And yet, you can't resist me, he teased, leaning closer. Careful, Luke, or I might have to leave you to cook alone, I shot back, pretending to walk away. Before I could take another step, Luke grabbed my wrist and pulled me back, trapping me in his arms. You're stuck with me now, he teased, trailing kisses across my face. Is that so? I said, grinning as I tickled him. He burst into laughter, letting me go, and I darted across the kitchen. Luke quickly caught up, spinning me around and pinning me against the counter. Now you're exactly where I want you, he murmured, his lips brushing my ear. The shiver that ran through me gave me away, and before I knew it, his lips were on mine. Deep, passionate, and overwhelming. Luke, I gasped, breathless, my heart pounding, but I didn't hesitate. I love you. He froze, his eyes locking onto mine. A wave of emotion flickered across his face. Surprise, joy, and something deeper. Tears glistened as he broke into a smile. I've been waiting for you to say that, he said, his voice thick with emotion. I love you too, Andrew. More than you know. He pulled me into a hug, his warmth wrapping around me, just as he leaned for another kiss. His phone buzzed, breaking the moment. Sorry, he muttered, answering it. His expression shifted, worry replacing his earlier joy. When he hung up, he looked at me. His eyes widened. It was Rowan, he said quietly. He's coming back. I stared at him, the weight of his words sinking in. Just when everything seemed perfect, life threw us a new challenge. 1 hour later, I paced the living room, while Luke sat on the couch, his hands blurred in his hair. The tension between us was suffocating. Maybe it's not as bad as it seems, I said, trying to sound hopeful despite the dread twisting in my gut. I know it's awkward seeing your brother with your best friend, but he might come around. Luke let out a frustrated sigh, shaking his head. That's not the problem, Andrew, he said, his voice eager with despair. The issue is, my brother is a homophobe. I froze mid-step, staring at him. You're joking, right? No, Luke said firmly, his eyes locking onto mine. I wish I was. He always been against gay people, and he thinks I'm straight. But why? I asked, struggling to process it. Rowan loves you so much. Luke ran a hand through his hair, looking more distressful than ever. I don't know all the details, but something happened in high school. He had a friend who was gay, and that guy, well, he confessed his feelings to Rowan. Rowan didn't feel the same way, but instead of handling it maturely, he betrayed him, humiliated him a lot. Ever since then, he'd always been like this. I sank into the couch beside him, my nerves on edge. So, what do we do? I asked quietly. Luke's jaw tightened, and determination flashed in his eyes. We have no choice. We have to hide our relationship from Rowan at all costs. I nodded, but unease gnawed at me. Luke's plan made sense. The fear lingered in my mind. What if Rowan found out? Would he forgive us? Or would he destroy everything? A week later, Rowan had settled seamlessly into our house, but his presence brought a tension that lingered between Luke and me. We tiptoed around him, careful not to reveal our closeness or indulge in our usual playful banter. Our stolen kisses had become fleeting, and if I found myself aching for the intimacy we once shared, frustrating as it was, we were just relieved Rowan hadn't caught on to us yet. So, when are you heading back, Rowan? I asked one evening. Why would I leave? This is my apartment too, he replied, glaring. I mean your internship, I clarified. Ah, right. I've decided to focus on college for now, so don't worry. I'm staying, he said with a grin. I sighed. It seemed we weren't getting rid of him anytime soon. Later, as Rowan left to meet some friends, Luke let out a relieved breath. Thank God. Every time he's here, I feel like I'm suffocating. That's because we keep lying to him, I replied, guilt heavy in my voice. Luke cupped my face. We're doing the right thing, Andrew. If he finds out, it'll be a disaster. I nodded, trusting him. When he leaned in, I hesitated. What are you doing? I whispered. I haven't kissed you in forever, he said. Rowan's not coming back anytime soon. He was right. One kiss wouldn't hurt. I leaned in, meeting his lips, and soon we were lost in the kiss. Wild, passionate, and full of longing, as though we hadn't touched in years, until a furious voice broke the moment. Andrew? Luke? What are you doing? We turned to see Rowan glaring. Rowan, let me explain. Luke started. I'll deal with you later. Rowan snapped at Luke before grabbing my collar. What do you think you're doing with my brother? Please listen, I stammered, but he shoved me. I don't want to hear it. Pack your things and get out. Rowan, stop, Luke yelled. Don't get involved, Luke, Rowan barked. He's been using you. I know you like guys, but you're not innocent either. That's not true, Rowan. We love each other, and we've been together for over a month. I made the first move, so don't blame him, Luke said firmly. Don't speak for him, Luke. He's clearly been brainwashing you for you to believe that. It's okay, Luke, I said softly. Maybe it's better if I go. No, you can't do that. Andrew! Luke shouted. I turned away from him, heading to my room to pack. The weight of the situation settled over me. I gathered my things. As I left, I gave Luke a sad smile, my heart heavy. I tried to approach Rowan one last time, but his cold silence made it clear. I meant nothing to him now. As I walked out of the apartment, it felt like I wasn't just leaving behind the people I loved. I was leaving behind a part of myself. A few days later, I'd been staying with a small room with a friend. As I had nowhere else to go, Rowan might seem like the villain now. But when I first arrived, he was the one who offered me a helping hand, and even found the perfect apartment for us. But when I saw him that day, he wasn't the Rowan I'd known from college. Although I missed Luke more than anything, I also felt the loss of my best friend. A knock on my door startled me. I opened to find Luke standing there, looking like a mess. Though, unlike me, he was a beautiful mess. Can I come in? He asked softly. I nodded, stepping aside to let him in. He scanned the apartment with the disappointment in his eyes. My friend's place was nothing like my old one. You're eating takeout now? Luke asked, surprised. Well, cooking doesn't feel the same without you, I replied, embarrassed. Or is it because you burned half the dishes? He chuckled softly. I had no one to guide me, I said quietly. I'm here now, he said, and we kissed, not wanting to let go. I'm sorry I didn't contact you. I didn't know how to face you after Rowan threw you out, Luke said, looking down. It wasn't your fault, I understand, I said, gazing into his eyes, but I've been convincing Rowan for days. Let's go. He's ready to listen, Luke urged. I hesitated but realized I couldn't keep running. 20 minutes later, I sat at my old apartment, Luke by my side, Rowan across from us. So, what do you have to say for yourself? Rowan asked, all business. Rowan, I love Luke. I haven't been manipulating him. I've been your best friend for years. How could you think that? I pleaded. His expression softened a bit, but he turned cold again. But he's my baby brother, Andrew. How could you play with him like that? I'm not a child, Rowan. I'm an adult, and I can make my own decisions, Luke retorted. Rowan, I haven't played with anyone's feelings. Trust me, I said. He turned away, muttering, I'm not sure if I can trust you. You guys lied to me. Brother, please. You promised you'd listen to us, Luke begged. I am, Rowan replied firmly, but I still can't forgive Andrew or accept this relationship. Can you at least try? I begged. For the sake of our friendship. Rowan's expression softened briefly. Fine, but don't expect anything. I nodded at Luke, offering a small smile. Things were still a mess, but getting Rowan to listen was a small victory, and I couldn't be happier. 2 weeks later, Luke and I moved into the new rented apartment a few days ago, escaping the tension and awkwardness around Rowan. It was cozy, but most importantly, it was ours. We were ecstatic to be back together, spending our days hanging out. And though Rowan hadn't fully accepted us yet, he was starting to understand. He even started hanging out with us at our new place. Sometimes, and those were some of the happiest days of my life, having my best friend back. One evening, Luke, Rowan and I were having a game night in our new living room. We did this often now. As Luke said, it would bring us closer. Ha! Luke yelled after winning another round of cards. You're definitely cheating, I teased. That's what the loser always says. He grinned. I agree with Andrew. You always have tricks up your sleeves, Rowan added. It's called being a genius, idiots. Luke smirked. We both hit him with pillows, causing us all to burst into laughter. The laughter died down, and Rowan broke the silence. I'm sorry, Andrew. I thought all gay people were the same, only out to play with your feelings. But I shouldn't have judged you so harshly. You're always my best friend. I'm really sorry, he confessed. It's all right, Rowan. All I ever wanted was for you to forgive me. I said, tears welling up. There's nothing to forgive, Andrew. You never did anything wrong, he replied softly. Does that mean you accept our relationship, Luke asked, hopefully. I'm not sure yet, but I'll try my best. For my brother and my best friend, he said, smiling. Group hug! Luke yelled before pulling us both in. As we looked at them, relief washed over me. I wasn't going to lose either of them. A few weeks later, the golden light of the setting sun streamed through the windows as Luke and I sat together on the couch in our new apartment, a comfortable silence between us. His head rested on my shoulder, his fingers lazily tracing circles in the back of my hand. Do you ever think how far we've come? I asked softly. Luke tilted his head to look at me, a small smile playing on his lips. All the time, though I only know how to survive your movie choices. Hey, I said, punching him playfully. They're not that bad. They're terrible, he grinned, but I'll let you off the hook because you're cute. I couldn't stop the smile spreading across my face. Flattery will get you everywhere, huh? He leaned in and kissed me, his lips lingering for a moment. I'm irresistible, and you love me, maybe, I teased. But I'm definitely not letting you go. Luke chuckled softly. Bold of you to assume that I'd let you go first, Andrew. I laughed, the sound of lights, and unguarded. Guess we're stuck here with each other, huh? Forever, he said. He said, his smile warm and certain. Without hesitation, I leaned in, pressing a kiss to his lips. Forever sounds perfect. After all the struggles and uncertainty, at the moment, everything felt perfect. Just the two of us. Exactly where we were meant to be. Conclusion. After I finished college, I landed a well-paying job, which allowed Luke to focus more on his classes. Despite the busyness of our lives, we made time for each other. Those quiet moments together were more precious than anything else. Rowan's transformation was unexpected. Over time, he started accepting our relationship, and though it took patience, Luke and I supported him as he worked through his feelings. Eventually, Rowan became the kind of compassionate friend I had first met in college, and I couldn't have been prouder. The biggest surprise came when Rowan started dating Avi. Whether it was her fascination with Luke or something deeper, the two clicked in a way he hadn't anticipated. The relationship fit perfectly, and Ava, once a good friend, quickly became a cherished part of our group. Game nights now with the four of us were filled with laughter and warmth. As time passed, Luke and I became the perfect couple, our relationship evolving into something I never thought I'd experience. Though he remained his usual annoying self, his playful, carefree personality perfectly balanced my more serious and reserved side. Whether we were bantering in the kitchen or fighting over a movie, life with Luke was never dull. Together we had created a beautiful little world of our own, full of love, laughter, and unspoken understanding. The end. Would you fall in love with your best friend's brother? Thank you for watching. Consider subscribing to become a part of our Rainbow Force, and stay wholesome.